The Odyssey, translated by Samuel Butler, Book 2, read for you by Devin Young. Now, when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, Telemachus rose and dressed himself. He bound his sandals on his comely feet, girded his sword about his shoulder, and left his room looking like an immortal god. He at once sent the criers round to call the people in assembly. So they called them, and the people came gathered thereupon. Then, when they were got together, he went to the palace of assembly, spear in hand, not alone, for his 2 hounds went with him. Athena endowed him with a presence of such divine comeliness that all marveled at him as he went by. And when he took his place in his father's seat, even the oldest counselors made way for him. Aegyptus, a man bent double with age and infinite experience, was first to speak. He was the son of Antiphus, who had gone with Odysseus to Ilium, land of the noble steeds. But the savage Cyclops had killed him when they were all shut up in the cave, and had cooked him last for dinner. He had 3 sons, of whom 2 still worked on their father's land, while the third, Eurynomus, was one of the suitors. Nevertheless, their father could not get over the loss of Antiphus, and was weeping for him when he began his speech. Men of Ithaca, he said, hear my words. From the day Odysseus left us, there has been no meeting of counselors until now. Who then can it be, whether young or old, that finds it so necessary to convene us? Has he got wind of some host approaching, and does he wish to warn us, or would he speak upon some other matter of public moment? I am sure he is an excellent person, and I hope Zeus will grant him his heart's desire. Telemachus took this speech as a good omen and rose once again, for he was bursting with what he had to say. He stood in the middle of the assembly, and the good herald Pisanor brought him his staff. Then turning to Aegyptus, he said, Sir, it is I, as you will shortly learn, who have convened you, for it is I who am most aggrieved. I have not got wind of any host approaching about which I would warn you, nor is there any matter of public moment on which I would speak. My grievance is purely personal. Probably a bad move. And turns on 2 great misfortunes that have fallen upon my house. First of these is the loss of my excellent father, who is chief among you all present here, and was like a father to every one of you. The second is much more serious, and ere long will be the ruin of my estate. The sons of all the chief men among you are pestering my mother to marry them against her will. They are afraid to go to her father Icarius, asking him to choose the one he likes best and provide marriage gifts for his daughter. But day by day they keep hanging about my father's house, sacrificing our oxen, sheep, and fat goats for their banquets, never giving so much as a thought to the quantity of wine they drink. No estate can stand such recklessness. We have now no Odysseus to ward off harm from our doors, and I cannot hold my own against them. I shall never all my days be as good a man as he was. Still, I would indeed defend myself if I had power to do so, for I cannot stand such treatment any longer, my house being disgraced and ruined. Have respect, therefore, to your own consciences and to public opinion. Fear, too, the wrath of heaven, lest the gods should be displeased and turn on you. I pray to Zeus and Themis, who is the beginning and the end of councils. Do not hold back, my friends, and leave me single-handed, unless it be that my brave father Odysseus did some wrong to the Achaeans, which you would now avenge on me by aiding and abetting these suitors. Moreover, if I am to be eaten out of house and home at all, I had rather you did the eating yourselves, for I could then take action against you to some purpose, and serve you with notices from house to house till I got paid in full, whereas now I have no remedy. With this, Telemachus dashed his staff to the ground and burst into tears. Everyone felt very sorry for him, but they all sat still, and no one ventured to make him an angry answer. Only Antinous spoke thus. Telemachus, insolent braggart that you are, how dare you try to throw the blame on us suitors? It is your mother's fault, not ours, for she is a very artful woman. 3 years past, and close on 4, she has been driving us out of our minds by encouraging each one of us and sending him messages without meaning what one word of what she says. And then there was that other trick she played on us. She set up a great tambour frame in her bedroom, began to work an enormous piece of fine needlework. Sweetheart, she said, Odysseus is indeed dead. Do not press me to marry again immediately. Wait, For I would not have my skill in needlework perish unrecorded, till I have completed a pall for the hero Laertes, to be in readiness against the time when his death shall take him. He is very rich, and the woman of the place will talk if he is laid out without a pail. This is what she said, and we assented, whereon we could see her working on a web all day long, but at night she would unpick the stitches again by torchlight. She fooled us in this way for 3 years, and we never found her out. But as time wore on, she was now in the 4th year, and one of her maids, who knew what she was doing, told us, and we caught her in the act of undoing her work. So she had to finish it whether she would or no. The suitors, therefore, make you this answer, that both you and the Achaeans understand. Send your mother away, and bid her marry the man of her own and her father's choice. For I do not know what will happen if she goes on plaguing us much longer with the airs she gives off, on the score of accomplishments Athena has taught her, because she is so clever. We never heard such a woman. We know of Tyro and Aclima and Mycenae, the famous women of old, but they were nothing to your mother. Any one of them. It is not fair of her to treat us in that way, as long as she continues in mind with which heaven has now endowed her. So long shall we go on eating up your estate. I do not see why she should change, for she gets all the honor and glory. It is you who pays for it, not she. Understand, then, that we will not go back to our lands, neither here nor elsewhere, till she has made her choice and married someone of us or other of us. Telemachus answered, Antinous, how can I drive my mother who bore me from my father's house? My father is abroad. So what you're seeing right here is Antinous is trying to make this all on Penelope, which is really not true. I mean, they're literally just squatting in her house and refusing to leave, but they can claim that she's sending the messages because no one's going to actually go verify any of this. So it's just sort of on Telemachus then. It's not really fair, but that's sort of just the way the world works, is that people will ultimately push you around unless you have the ability to defend yourself. And when he's telling all the people of Ithaca that he can't defend himself, they're like, well, then why would we defend you, man? Like, I don't, you're just telling. He's probably get more people at his house eating his food, but so not the greatest move there, because you're really just alerting everyone to your own helplessness. But let's see how this goes. Antinous, how can I drive my mother who bore me from my father's house? My father is abroad, and we do not know whether he is alive or dead. It will be hard on me if I have to pay Icarius the large sum which I must give him if I insist on sending his daughter back to him. Not only will he deal rigorously with me, but heaven will also punish me, for my mother, when she leaves the house, will call on the Furies to avenge her. Besides, it would not be a credible thing to do, for I have nothing to say to it. If you choose to take offense at this, leave the house and feast elsewhere, at one another's house, at your own cost. Turn and turn about. If, on the other hand, you elect to persist in sponging upon one man, heaven help me, but Zeus shall reckon with you in full, and when you fall in my father's house, there shall be no man to avenge you. As he spoke, Zeus sent 2 eagles from the top of the mountain, and they flew on and on the wind, sailing side by side in their own lordly flight. When they were right over the middle of the assembly, they wheeled and circled about, beating the air with their wings, glaring death into the eyes of them that were below. Then, fighting fiercely and tearing at one another, they flew off towards the right over the town. The people wondered as they saw them, and asked each other what all this might be. Whereon Halitherses, who was a prophet, the best prophet and reader of omens among them, spoke to them plainly and honestly, saying, Wow, hear me, men of Ithaca. I speak more particularly to the suitors, for I see mischief brewing for them. Odysseus is not going to be away much longer. Indeed, he is close at hand to deal out death and destruction, not on them alone, but on many other who live in Ithaca. Let them be wise in time, and put a stop to this wickedness before he comes. Let the suitors do so of their own accord. It will be better for them. I am not prophesying without due knowledge. Everything has happened to Odysseus as I foretold, when the Argives set out for Troy, and he with them. That I said after going through much hardship and losing all his men, he should come home in the 20th year, and that no one would know him. And now all this is coming true. Wow, so that's a strong omen there. And he literally, like the most wise and learned man speaks out and just says that immediately after 2 eagles fly in immediately after that happened. Go home, old man, and prophesy to your children, or it may be the worse for you. This is Eurymachus, the son of Polybus. And prophecy to your children, maybe the worst for them. Dang, he's threatening his kids. I can read these omens myself much better than you. Birds are always flying about in the sunshine somewhere or other, but they seldom mean anything. Odysseus has died in a far country. It is a pity you are not dead along with him. Instead of prating here about omens and adding fuel to the anger of Telemachus, which is fierce enough as it is, I suppose you think he will give you something for your family. But I tell you, it shall surely be when an old man like you, who should know better, talks a young one over till he becomes troublesome. In the first place, his young friend will only fare so much the worse. He will take nothing for it. The suitors will prevent this. In the next, he will lay a much heavier fine, sir, upon yourself than you will be in all. Than you. One second, I'm going to read this again slowly. This is interesting. So he's threatening Telemachus and the old prophet Halitherses. So he's saying that, I suppose you think that he will give you something for your family, but I tell you, and it shall surely be, when an old man like you, who should know better, talks a young one over till he becomes troublesome. So he's saying that he's going to encourage Telemachus to take some sort of dire action. In the first place, his young friend will only fare so much the worse. They're going to kill Telemachus and beat him up. He will take nothing by it, for the suitors will prevent this. And the next, we will lay a heavier fine, sir, upon yourself than you will at all like paying, for it will bear hardly upon you. So it's going to be a very hard fine. He's not going to want to pay it. As for Telemachus, I warn him upon yourself than you will like paying, for it will bear hardly upon you. So they might be threatening like to even rape him or something. Like that's a weird way of phrasing it, and that might be why he phrased it that way. Like they might be implying that they're even gonna like rape both of them or something. That's fucking dark. As for Telemachus, I warn him in the presence of all you to send his mother back to her father, that's an impossible task. Like you're gonna kick your mom out of her house. Everyone knows it, but they're all like, whatever, Telemachus, like, fucking do something about it, man. It's a brutal world. As for Telemachus, I warn him in the presence of you all to send his mother back to her father, who will find her a husband and provide her with all the marriage gifts so dear a daughter may expect. Till then, we shall go on harassing him with our suit, for we fear no man, and care neither for him with all his fine speeches, nor for any fortune-telling of yours. You may preach as much as you please, but we shall only hate you the more. We shall go back and continue to eat up Telemachus' estate without paying for him, till such time as his mother leaves off tormenting us, made-up thing, by keeping us day by day on tiptoe of expectation, each vying with the other in suit for a prize of such rare perfection. Besides, we cannot go after the other woman whom we each would marry in due course, for in which way she treats us. That doesn't even make any sense. Like, he's just saying, like, we can't marry other women. She's treating us this way, so we have to just keep on being here, like the macho men, just eating up all this estate, competing to see who can eat the most Telemachus' estate. It's a serious competition, guys. We have to eat all of this young man's food to compete for his mom. And because bro's not kicking his mom out of the house, he's given us no options but to continue having Saturdays for the boys at his house every single day. Because we can't marry other women. Because she's, like, refusing us and everything, which is insulting. Because she's totally leading us on by, like, living in this house that she's lived in. So we have to continue camping out here, eating up his estate. It's BS, but no one cares. And that's reality. So anyway, then Telemachus said, Eurymachus. Actually, it's funny. I was talking to a guy in the sauna one time. I asked him if he read the Odyssey. Because I asked a lot of people that. And he's like, oh, yes. He's Greek. He's like, oh, yes. Tells you when you have to kill people. Real shit. I'm just like, I like you. Or he may have said real shit tells you when you have to kill people. But he said both of those things. May have been in a slightly different order. Eurymachus, you and the other suitors, I shall say no more and entreat you no further, for the gods and the people of Ithaca now know my story. Give me then a ship and a crew of 20 men and take me hither and thither. I'll go to Sparta and to Pylos in quest of my father who has been so long missing. Someone may tell me something, or people often hear things in this way. Some heaven-sent message may direct me. If I hear of him as alive and on his way home, I will put up with the waste of you suitors for another 12 months. If, on the other hand, I hear of his death. I will return at once, celebrate his funeral rites with all due pomp, build a barrow to his memory, and make my mother marry again." With these words he sat down, and Mentor, who had been a friend of Odysseus, and had been left in charge of everything with full authority over the servants, rose to speak. He then plainly and in all honesty addressed them thus: "Hear me, men of Ithaca. I hope that you may never have a kind and well-disposed ruler any more, nor one who will govern you equitably. I hope that all your chiefs henceforth may be cruel and unjust, for there is not one of you but has forgotten Odysseus, who ruled you as though he were your father. I am not half so angry with the suitors, for if they choose to do violence in the naughtiness of their hearts, and wager their heads that Odysseus will not return, they can take the high hand and eat of his estate. But as for you others, I am shocked by the way which you all sit still without even trying to stop such scandalous goings on, of which you could do if you so chose, for you are many and they are few." So I don't know if this is Athena in disguise as Mentor, or this is actually Mentor, or if there's a difference between them, but we're going to continue. So Leodocus, son of Evenor, answered him, saying, "Mentor, what folly is all this, that you should set the people to stay us? It is a hard thing for one man to fight with many about his victuals. But even though Odysseus himself were to set upon us while we were feasting in his house, and do his best to oust us, his wife, who wants him back so badly, would have small cause for rejoicing, and his blood would be upon his own head if he fought against such odds. There is no sense in what you have been saying. Therefore, do you people go about your business, and let his father's old friends, Mentor and Halitherses, speed this boy upon his journey, if he goes at all, which I do not think he will, for he is far more likely to stay where he is till someone comes and tells him something." One second, what are you saying there? So Mentor is blaming everyone else as well for this, which is kind of weak, but like also, though, it's not like Mentor's estate, but it is also Mentor's responsibility to look after these things. So Mentor, I'm going to assume that Mentor is just Athena here, and that Mentor is really because like there's the way Mentor shows up. Like Mentor, I believe, is generally Athena, and not really, like, I think she's kind of just provoking things. She wants something to happen, which I think also why she allowed the suitors to come back as well. I think Athena's a crafty crafter. So, oh yeah, exactly. It confirms it down below on the page. Okay. So basically, though, I think they're also, so Leodocus is he's a little questioning himself now. He's like, oh shit, is Telemachus actually going to go do this? So in this he broke up the assembly, and every man went back on his own abode, while the suitors returned to the house of Odysseus. Then Telemachus went along beside the seaside, washed his hands in the gray waves, and prayed to Athena. "Hear me," he cried, "you god who visited me yesterday and bade me sail the seas in search of my father, who has so long been missing. I would obey you, but the Achaeans, who, more particularly the wicked suitors, are hindering me, that I cannot do so." That is his error, is he's telling them he wants kind of like permission to do what he needs to do, but he's not going to get it. He just has to go out and do it, because that's what being a man is. So, as he thus prayed, Athena came close to him in the likeness and with the voice of Mentor. "Telemachus," she said, "if you are made of the same stuff as your father, you will be neither fool nor coward henceforward. For Odysseus never broke his word, nor left his work half done. If then you take after him, your voyage will not be fruitless. Unless you have the blood of Odysseus and Penelope in your veins, I see no likelihood of your succeeding. Sons are seldom as good men as their fathers. They are generally worse, not better. Still, as you are not going to be either fool or coward henceforth, and are not entirely without some share of your father's wise discernment, I look with hope upon your undertaking. But mind you never make a common cause with any of those foolish suitors, for they have neither sense nor virtue, and give no thought to death, and to doom that will shortly fall on one all of them, so that they shall perish on the same day. As for your voyage, it shall not be long delayed. Your father was such an old friend of mine, that I will find you a ship, and will come with you myself. Now, however, return home, and go about among the suitors, and begin to get provisions ready for your voyage. See everything well stowed, wine jars and barley meal, which is the stuff of life, in leathern bags, and while I go round the town and beat up volunteers at once. There are many ships in Ithaca, both old and new, and I will run an eye over them for you and choose the best, and we will get her ready and put her to sea without delay. Thus spoke Athena, daughter of Zeus, and Telemachus lost no time in doing what the goddess told him. He went moodily home and found the suitors flaying. So yeah, Athena is just mentor, because Telemachus is moody. He just got talked to by a goddess, so it's like, yeah, you can't recognize her yet. But Athena's doing him a solid here. So Athena, daughter of Zeus, Telemachus lost no time doing as the goddess told him. He went moodily home, found the suitors flaying goats and singeing pigs in the outer court. Antinous came up to him at once and laughed as he took his hand in his own, saying, Telemachus, and laughed as he took his hand in his own. So he was grabbing his hand. Telemachus, my fine fire eater, bear no more ill blood, neither in word nor deed, but eat and drink with us as you used to. The Achaeans will supply you with everything, a ship and pick crew to boot, so that you can sail for Pylos at once to get news of your noble father. Antinous answered Telemachus, I cannot eat in peace, nor take pleasure of any kind with such men as you are. Was it not enough that you should waste so much good property of mine while I was yet a boy? Now that I am older and know about it, I am also stronger. Whether here among these people, or by going to Pylos, I will do you all the harm I can. I shall go. My going will not be in vain. Though thanks to you suitors, I have neither ship nor crew of my own. It must be passenger, not captain. As he spoke, he snatched his hand from that of Antinous. Meanwhile, the others, getting ready for dinner about the buildings, jeered at him, taunting him as they do so. Telemachus, said one youngster, means to be the death of us. I suppose he thinks he can bring friends to help him from Pylos, or again from Sparta, where he seems bent on going. Or will he go to Ephyra as well, for poison to put in our wine and kill us? I think they're joking, but then they realize, like, holy shit, he could actually do that. Another said, perhaps Telemachus goes on board a ship. He will be like his father and perish far away from his friends. In this case, you have plenty to do, for we could then divide up his property among us. As for the house, we can let his mother and the man who marries her have that. That was how they talked. But Telemachus went down into a lofty and spacious storeroom, where his father's treasure of gold and bronze lay heaped up upon the floor, and where linen and spare clothes were kept in oaken chests. Here there was a store of fragrant olive oil, while casks of old, well-ripened wine, unblended and fit for a god to drink. Greek wine was very different, were ranged against the wall in case Odysseus should come home after all. The room was closed with well-made doors opening in the middle. Moreover, the old faithful housekeeper Euryclea, the son of Ops, the son of Peisenor, was in charge of everything both day and night. Telemachus called her to the storeroom and said, Nurse, draw me off some of the best wine you have, after what you are keeping for my father's own drinking, in case, poor man, he should escape death and find his way home again after all. Let me have 12 jars, and see that they all have lids, and also fill me some well-sewn leathern bags with barley meal, about 20 measures in all. Get these things put together at once, and say nothing about it. I will take everything away this evening as soon as my mother has gone upstairs for the night. I'm going to Sparta and to Pylos to see if I can hear anything about the return of my dear father. When Euryclea heard this, she began to cry and spoke fondly to him, saying, My dear child, whatever can have put you with such a notion into your head? Where in the world do you want to go, you who are the one hope of our house? Your poor father is dead and gone some foreign country. No one knows where, and as soon as your back is turned, these wicked ones here scheming to get you put out of the way and share with all your possessions among themselves. Stay where you are among your own people, and do not go wandering and worrying your life out on the barren ocean. She's worried he's going to die. Fear not, nurse, answered Telemachus. My scheme is not without heaven's sanction, but swear that you will say nothing about this to my mother till I have gone away some 10 or 12 days, unless she hears of my having gone and asks you. For I do not want her to spoil her beauty by crying. Dang, that's cold. The old woman swore most solemnly that she would not. But when she had completed her oath, she began drawing off the wine to jars and getting the barley meal into bags. And while Telemachus went back to the suitors. Then Athena bethought of her another matter. Athena bethought of her another matter. It's a strange way of phrasing it. She took his shape and went round the town to each one of the crew, telling them to meet her at the ship by sundown. She also went to Noemon, son of Phonius. Neumann son of Phanius, and asked him to let her have a ship, which he was very ready to do. When the sun had set and darkness was over all the land, she got the ship into the water, put all the tackle on board her that ships generally carry, and stationed her at the end of the harbor. Presently the crew came up, and the goddess spoke encouragingly to each of them. Furthermore, she went to the house of Odysseus, and threw the suitors into a deep slumber. She caused their drink to fuddle them, and made them drop their cups from their hands, so that instead of sitting over their wine, they went back into the town to sleep, with their eyes heavy and full of drowsiness. Then she took the form and voice of Mentor, and called Telemachus to come outside. "Telemachus," she said, "the men are on board and at their oars, waiting for you to give your orders. So make haste and let us be off." On this she led the way, while Telemachus followed in her steps. When they got to the ship, they found the crew waiting by the waterside, and Telemachus said, "Now, my men, help me get to the shores on board. They are all put together in the cloister. My mother does not know. Oh, help me get the stores on board. Now, my men, help me get the stores on board." He's talking about the supplies. They are all put together in the cloister, which is something you carry between people. My mother does not know anything about it, nor any of the maid servants except one. So no one knows we're doing this. With these words he led the way, and the others followed after. When they had brought the things as he told them, Telemachus went on board, Athena going before him, and taking her seat in the stern of the vessel, while Telemachus sat beside her. Then the men loosed their hawsers and took their places on the benches. Athena sent them a fair wind from the west that whistled over the deep blue waves, whereon Telemachus told them to catch hold of the ropes and hoist a sail, and they did as he told them. They set the mast in its sockets in the cross plank, raised it, and made it fast with the forestays. Then they hoisted their white sails aloft with ropes of twisted oxhide. As the sail bellied out in the wind, the ships flew through the deep water, and foam hissed against her bows as she sped onward. Then they made all fast throughout the ship, filling the mixing bowls to the brim, and made drink offerings to the immortal gods. Then they made all fast throughout the ship. I don't really know what that means. And made drink offerings to the immortal gods that are from everlasting, but more particularly the gray-eyed daughter of Zeus. It's a weird way of phrasing it. The Samuel Butler translation is interesting, but this is the one I read originally, and this is a very classic translation, so I'm going to work with it, because if you get through this, you'll have finished a classic translation of the Odyssey. Not a modern one, but a classic one. Thus, then, the ship sped on her way through the watches of the night, from dark till dawn. Hereon ends chapter 2 of the Odyssey.